Hi everyone, welcome back. And in this video, I'll be giving you some information on one of the facilitation skills, which is structuring. So before this, I had taken a video on what is facilitation and why do we do facilitation and who can become a facilitator. So if you haven't got to see that video and you want to know what is facilitation, you can click on the link that I have provided in the description box. Now let's get into it. So we are going to look at the very first skill, which is called as structuring. Okay. So if you look at, see, generally human mind can travel anywhere, anytime. Okay. It's not restricted. So we would, when we, schedule a meeting and when we plan for a meeting, we would expect that, everyone would think alike and the meeting is going to go as planned and everyone are going to come up with the same points and same ideas. But that's not the case. If you see, the expectation would be like things should go in the right flow. But when you have a discussion or meeting, there are different people in the room. They have different ideas, they have different opinions, and they have different experiences. So every point that is shared in a meeting might trigger some other idea for another person. And that person might share an idea which would trigger something else from another person. So there's always a to and fro way of communication which occurs in a meeting. So if you see the way a particular topic starts, it can divert and it can go to any other topic. So it can go to topic A, from topic B, it can go to C, D, and then back to A. So there's always a lot of shuffling between topics. So that's why as a facilitator, you can, yes, you can allow the team, to brainstorm and share different ideas. But imagine if there's going to be some amount of, cycle conversations, and that's going to, take a long time, and you find that, there's no conclusion that is being reached, no goal that is being achieved, and the meeting's objective is not being reached. Then there's a situation where you need to come in as a facilitator and you need to keep track of whether everything is being organized and structured well. So that's a little bit of an overview. So now let us look at the structuring or organizing skill of a facilitator. So the very first tip for this type of a skill that you want to gain is to first, whenever you're going to facilitate a meeting, it is important to understand the type of team that you are facilitating. So now there might be different teams in your organization. You might have the leadership team, you have the clients, you have the design and product team, you have technical, you have stakeholder teams, and you have n number of teams. So before you facilitate a meeting, you always need to know which is the team that you would be facilitating. Why I say this is because the very first point to keep in mind is to prepare your meeting materials based on the team type. So now if you want to facilitate a meeting, let's say with the data or management team, this team is most concerned and they are more interested in data, and when you give them some boring data in the form of excels, it's not going to bring any means of communication. It's not going to be visually appealing. So at that time, in order to facilitate discussion between your audience, you can come up with materials that would enable their discussion, such as charts. When you facilitate meetings with product teams, you might want to, you product design teams, you might want to go with user flow maps. Okay, so these can enable the team to further enhance and to further drive their conversations. Now make sure you're not going to contribute to it, but you're just enabling teams. Imagine giving a let's say a data or management team some design that's not going to mean anything to them, though it might be relevant, but still it's not going to boost or enhance their conversation. So always keep in mind the team that you are facilitating and keep materials, the materials that you are going to use to facilitate that meeting, keep it relevant to the team type. So that's what I'm coming to say. The next one is organize the meeting agenda. Okay, it's the most important as this will help you to guide the meeting. So of course there are sometimes some ad hoc meetings that come up, but as time goes by, you would be, when you master facilitation skills, you would be able to drive the meeting without predefining an agenda. Okay, but if you're new to it, or even if you're experienced, it's always recommended that you go with a meeting agenda. Okay, this will be a guideline for you in order to drive the meeting. You will set up certain time frames for every section in the agenda, and you would be able to accordingly complete the meeting as expected. The next one is track where the meeting is heading and bring members back to the topic if the topic gets deviated. Okay, so as I said in the previous slide, sometimes when you are in a meeting and when you're facilitating, there will be times when topics get deviated, the team might go out of track, and there might be a lot of circling between the same topics, which is not even relevant to the meeting. So at that time, you need to be able to bring back the team members to the conversation that is important, to the topic that is relevant to that particular meeting. And you need to act as a guide for the team to achieve that meeting goal. Okay. So this is another skill or tip when you are facilitating a meeting. The next one is track the meeting time and have a hard stop at the scheduled duration. Okay. So everyone's time is very important. Okay, so if you're facilitating a meeting, you need to keep track, as I said. So based on the agenda, every section you need to keep track of the time. And if the meeting ends at 5 o'clock, then yes, you should have a hard stop at 5. You as a facilitator, it's up to you to keep track of that meeting and to take the meeting in the right sequence of time. Okay, the next one is summarize what was discussed in a meeting. So, as a facilitator, you also need to summarize what was discussed in the meeting. Okay, there would have been different points, everyone would have been taking down notes, but that doesn't mean you, as a facilitator, should not summarize what was discussed. So, there might be times when people would have missed out certain points. So, it's up to you that you should be able to summarize the entire discussion, what was that was taken place in that meeting, which would be helpful for the team. And when you summarize this down, you also should be able to call out the action items and note down the members who would be volunteering or taking ownership and the due date. Okay, so every meeting, definitely there would have been some decision that was taken, and there might be certain action items also that you know have been decided for the meeting. So you need to call out those action items, and you also need to find out who would be signing up for each action item. So people should not leave the meeting saying that, oh yes, there are some action items, but that's not for me, someone else would take care of it. If that's the case, then no one's going to work on it. So always make sure that if you're summarizing points, and if you're taking down action items, make sure that people sign up for those action items and also the due date within which they would complete that item. That's a good way of ending the meeting where everyone knows what is expected out of them. And the last one is guide the meeting conversation, that is avoid circle or different to and fro conversations. So the best idea is, as a facilitator, so there might be, let's say that in a meeting we are talking about topics um, E, but people bring up ideas of A, B, C, D. Okay, so it's not good to abruptly cut people, okay, saying that this is not relevant to the discussion. Don't say that. As a good facilitator, you should welcome the ideas that they bring in, but in a well polite manner. You need to let them know that, for example, saying that, hey, I know that this is a great idea, this is a great point that you have brought up, and this is a great topic that you have mentioned at the moment, but this does not seem to be quite relevant to the discussion. But yes, we can put these items in a parking lot so that we can take it on further for discussion post the meeting or in another scheduled meeting. In this way, people will know that their points that they have shared is being considered as valuable, it's being noted down, and yes, it would be further taken for a discussion, or at least they would know that they had been fully heard and not just cut and their points would not be even heard. So it's always best when things happen in this situation, add these items or topics which are not relevant to the scope of the meeting to a parking lot. And of course, yes, it's during this time that a lot of great ideas come up sometimes. So it's always best to listen to people, and add these items to parking lot. But please make sure you don't abruptly cut people off. That would make them feel that their points are not being heard. Whatever they say is, even if it's not relevant, people don't want to listen to them. That's going to create a very negative atmosphere for certain people. So these are some points relevant to how you structure and organize your meeting that you facilitate. So I hope this was helpful. If you found this informative, please do give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe to this channel, and also do share your feedbacks. Thank you.